Hello, welcome to IDDTalks. My name is Anastasia Lavrina, and now I am joined by a very distinguished guest, Mr. Klaus Jurgens, who is a political analyst with Economyfirst. Warm welcome.
Thank you very much, dear Anastasia.
Well, Germany is one of Europe's leading political and economic powers. How would you assess Azerbaijan-Germany relations today?
Well, yes, you mentioned that Germany is one of the leading European powers. Some people in Germany would actually say, is this still true? Because even Germany has a number of economic worries, environmental worries, political worries. Only a couple of days ago, a politician resigned. I'm not going into that. This happens everywhere. But yes, from a German perspective, I would say that Germany has come of age recently one more time, trying to find its way in a new geopolitical order. And this was very tough. It is very tough for Germany. You know it very well. Germany was one of the economic and political engines of this, what we call our common house Europe, together with France, much more so than with Italy, or definitely much more so than with England. And eventually, not everything went entirely well. And a soul searching started within the European Union. Just came back from the NATO summit covering it. A soul searching started within NATO. And definitely a soul searching has started within Germany itself. Where do we are? Who are we? Are we siding with Ukraine? Are we siding against Russia? Are we siding with President Trump? Are we siding with the French? Do we want to have our own European defense army, or what have you? So for Azerbaijan, this is a perfect point in time to establish closer links with Germany, because Germany is now realizing the importance of Azerbaijan and the Southern Caucasus, not only on paper, but in reality. So I do see it actually rather positive. And it is the best point in time that Azerbaijan and Germany actually get closer together. And don't forget, once the Germans are closer together with your fine nation, it might actually happen that the French fine nation will say, look, the Germans have a point. We overlooked Azerbaijan for far too long. We were only siding with Armenia in this conflict, which now has been solved since last year. And now the Germans have understood, hey, perhaps even we made a mistake to only put blame onto one country, but not on both. And now peace is on its way since the Washington Agreement. And the Germans, they do realpolitik, which is wonderful. They used to do it. They forgot it for a couple of years. And now perhaps it is back in full swing.
Well, a major quantitative change in Azerbaijan-Germany relations has been the start of direct Azerbaijani gas supplies to Germany since January 2026. And with long-term contracts, growing cooperation between SOCAR and Uniper, Azerbaijan's deeper integration into the European energy system, how important could Azerbaijan become for Germany energy security in the coming years?
It has already become very important, but this importance will grow. Now, I would say it is perhaps a little bit, not what you said, of course, but in general, some commentators to say that Germany is only warming up to Baku and Azerbaijan because there is a kind of ice age coming our way between Berlin and Moscow. No, that would be a little bit too short-sighted. No. Germany has over the years realized that perhaps it was wrong to only side with one part of the conflict, and sometimes overlooked Azerbaijan as the logic partner. And now Azerbaijan is actually the logic partner. And the Germans, yes, we want to diversify our energy supply routes. Absolutely. But a former German chancellor once said there will never be a world without Russia, at least not in my lifetime, I think. And most people would probably agree with this. So yes, of course, you can stop having any energy supplies from Russia if that is what you really want, and you diversify. But diversification means that you look into different directions, and Azerbaijan is absolutely best placed to become a leading energy supplier for not only Germany, but many parts of Europe. And you know why? It's not only because there is energy. There is, if I'm not mistaken, a surplus of energy. And perhaps we come back to this point. It is now almost 3 years ago, even before Azerbaijan hosted a very successful COP in Baku and in Azerbaijan, that at an event at the European Parliament, which is all on the record, I was asked, look, what could be a perfect lobbying tool for Azerbaijan? Is it politics? Is it geopolitics? Is it history? And even then I said, look, what about energy? What about having Azerbaijan becoming an energy supplier, because there is a surplus energy within Azerbaijan, so you don't reduce the amount of energy you need for your own nation, but you can export it. And why don't export it towards Europe and Germany in particular? And this process then started, and a very successful COP happened. It's not only energy, but it's clean and green energy at the same time. So yes, a huge potential. And I think the German population is rather happy. We have this debate going on, of course. Are we dependent on Russia? Are we dependent perhaps on other nations? Think about the United States selling energy at a very, very high price back to us. Or what about Azerbaijan? Could there not be an eye to eye, a fair deal being made? And I think this is exactly what with all my modest insight, what the German government is now trying to establish, having Azerbaijan as an energy provider, eye to eye, with fair prices. And then we come to the different corridor questions. Is it about gas only? Is it about oil? What other forms of energy? What can Germany learn from Azerbaijan? You know, having switched off atomic power, having switched off coal power plants, all of a sudden realizing we have to reinstall all of them perhaps, and we can learn a lot from Azerbaijan. Clean, green energy, wind and solar power. But for the time being, of course, we need gas, and we can't live without oil. That is for sure.
Germany has shown growing interest in Azerbaijan's renewable energy potential and projects such as the Black Sea Green Energy Corridor. Could Azerbaijan become an important supplier not only of gas, but also of green energy to Germany and the wider European market?
Absolutely, Anastasia. We have a huge political debate. You may have followed it now. It goes really deep into the heart of German politics. What do you think about climate change? Munich is the best example. A couple of days without any rain, and all of a sudden all the wells are sealed off because we have to save water, only to realize it has been heavily raining for 7 days. So my point is, where is the climate change? But that would be too cynical, and this is not your program's task. But believe me, it's a huge debate in Germany. Climate change, does it happen? Has it happened? Will it happen? And to what extent? And everyone would agree, I think, let's say 75% to 80% of the population, they realize, that's my own modest assumption, they would say we have to do something. Even if we don't agree that climate change is wrecking our planet by tomorrow, that we have 50 degrees Celsius every day, that we can't breathe anymore. Of course, these are nightmare apocalypse scenarios. The modest citizen actually says, yes, we realize we have hotter summers, there is climate change. So how can we actually not only change the way we use energy, but in particular how to save it in general? Now, what is the option? Stop using energy, which is no option in an industrialized country, or to look for alternatives, which is, as you said, clean, green energy. Now, what could be clean green energy? We have the sun, we have the wind, we have the water. And what we can learn from other nations is definitely how to use it much better. I think there is no energy shortage. There is no water shortage. It is just that we lived perhaps in a time where we said energy is limitless. Uh, Water is limitless. Everything is limitless. Now we realize perhaps in order to save it for future generations, it is not. So we are not going to change our way of life. We only make it more realistic. And of course, don't forget there's a money dimension attached to it. Water, electricity. I could show you my own bills. It is extremely expensive over the last 2 or 3 years. And this is what makes the population think. Do we have to change the way we live, or do we have to change the way we use energy? And then the question comes, if we don't produce our own energy in a sufficient manner, can we obtain it from somewhere else on a fair win-win basis? And Azerbaijan can actually lead the way. Is it 20%? Is it 25? Is it 30%? You know, how much renewable energy is a attainable, conceivable, sustainable goal? You would know it much better, Anastasia. I would say perhaps 25% initially is a goal which would reduce the burden of energy imports dramatically. And in all our countries, we have the sun, we have water, and we have wind. Austria, a good example, closer to Vienna. It is extremely windy. It's perfect for wind energy production. Hydro as well in other parts of the country, in Germany. And I think what Azerbaijan is showing us is the following 2 points: that you can diversify your own way how to produce energy, and you can be a good example, a best practice for other nations as well. And if you have enough energy and a surplus, why not export it? That would depend on what the German government would decide. But I think everyone wants to reduce the dependency on Russia. Austria wanted to reduce it completely. It did not work overnight, of course not. So I think Azerbaijan is extremely well placed as a friendly nation to step in. Yes, clean, green, renewable energy, and Germany and many other European countries still don't really embrace the power of renewables.
Germany also shown growing interest in the Middle Corridor as an alternative trade route connecting Europe with Central Asia and China. And German companies are already becoming more involved in related logistic projects. How would you describe Germany's potential role in the future development of the Middle Corridor?
Yes, again, we spoke about energy. Now, politics, sometimes I say where politics goes first, business will follow, and civil society, unfortunately, comes last. In this regard, I think it is different because the assumption that trade basically erases borders, not only technically speaking, logistically speaking, but in the minds of people as well. You know, when countries start to trade with each other, they actually realize, hey, these are not our enemies, these are our friends. What is in it? Export, import, import, export. Now, how can you make a logic route between, for example, the Southern Caucasus, your fine nation, other countries along the way, right into the heart of Europe? Now, of course, the middle corridor is absolutely vital. The Sangasur, I'm still not calling it the Trump corridor, but never mind what we call it actually. It shows to me 2 things. It is possible that before a full-fledged peace amongst nations has been established, that trade can actually flourish if all sides only want it. And once trade is flourishing, the politicians can't, no, they can't anymore block it, because it brings income, it brings prosperity, it brings wealth to peoples on both sides. And that brings me back to the point I made before. Germany, you mentioned in your first question, the Anastasia, the German powerhouse, yes, and amongst the Europeans. Of course, it was the powerhouse. But you know why? My own generation, I was the baby boomer, my generation before, we learned that if you want to live in prosperity, you only need one thing, and that is peace. And our entire European journey started with peace between and amongst the French and the Germans. And all the other nations followed suit. And this peace did not start by chance on paper. It was based on trade. It was based on the economic, steel, and coal cooperation. And this made both nations realize, look, why don't we join forces after a devastating Second World War and let the economy become the engine of integration? And this worked, as we all know, with ups and downs, almost perfectly well. Now, in the Southern Caucasus, we have exactly the same situation. Peace on paper sounds good. Peace on paper sounds extremely good. You might even win one election or two with it. But eventually the people will say, look, but why don't we trade with our neighbors? Why don't we invest? Why don't they invest? And once these money flows are on a constant basis, peace can't be removed anymore. That's why I'm so happy to see peace amongst your nation and the Armenian population and nation. But I always say, don't leave Georgia out of the equation. There is a Southern Caucasus. And why not, long story cut short, sorry if I'm too long, why not make an effort to create a kind of Southern Caucasus internal market fashioned after the EU's internal market? And you know how it started? Yes, peace between amongst the French and the Germans. But over the decades, then it went up and down. Eventually, the key motivation to have the internal market was trade. Free trade amongst nations, different taxation levels, free movement for goods and services. And only then came free movement for the people. Now, is this something to copy? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. But don't underestimate the power of free trade in order to pave the way for peace amongst and between nations. We realized it works, and I'm pretty much sure it will work in the Southern Caucasus too. But don't leave out Georgia, if I may say so. It should always be included in our plans. Not a two-nation solution. Southern Caucasus is not only two, but definitely there is a number three. And then you have the entire wider region. One day, I hope peace will be back in the region. You mentioned the Zangezur corridor. I saw one of the initial blueprints, I think in 2021, your government, I think your trade mission in Brussels, published a fantastic dossier saying once the Zangezur corridor is really operating, we must have a rail or road connection to Tehran. We can't sideline Iran at all. Now, can you imagine one day, once peace is there, that the people in Iran will economically benefit? You guys, you people will benefit. There is Armenia, there's Georgia, and then we have the wider region. And then you start exporting towards Europe, not only energy, but in general, a trade route. The middle corridor is not only about energy for me. It is about from the Caspian Sea, from China via the Caspian Sea, via Azerbaijan to Europe. It is about goods. And I hope one day afterwards it is for people too.
Well, Klaus, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining IDDTalks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anastasia. Thank you.